Well, the month of May brought a roller coaster ride of temperatures and mostly dry weather with one big holiday exception. It is the monthly weather roundup. I'm Joe Martucci. He is New Jersey State climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson. I should ask you this. How was your birthday? How was your May 13th birthday?
It was very nice. We were traveling down through Virginia to North Carolina for our nephew's college graduation and spent a lovely afternoon and evening in Stanton, Virginia, along 81. We took the
Okay.
slower way down, and
Right.
I highly recommend a visit there. Just lovely old downtown, good food, whatever. So it was a different kind of birthday. Hopefully yours was as entertaining as that.
And well, you know what? I always like to say, I mean, mid-May, best weather, right? I mean, May 13th has the best weather. We had that. It was beautiful here in New
It was a
Jersey.
beautiful day.
It was an excellent day,
Well,
and
it
yeah, it was good.
rained.
I had a lot of work on my birthday, but
Yeah,
it was good work.
you stayed out of the rain, but we hit rain, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, all the way down to Stanton. But as soon as we got there and a downpour, then it cleared up. So
Okay, gotcha. Well, happy birthday to you. I know you texted me this year pretty early on our birthday. I think it was like 7 a.m. So I appreciate the early birthday text.
had to
And
hit the road. Had to hit the road.
I understand. Before we get into this, I'm going to preface by saying if you're one of our video listeners, this is almost like my Michael Jordan flu game. My right eye is pretty swollen right now for reasons I don't know yet. I have a call into my doctor. Hopefully by the next monthly weather roundup, this will be gone. But just don't pay attention. Don't look at me. Look at Dave Robinson. He's
Look at
pulling the
me.
knowledge here.
But I sure hope that clears up in like today or tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, we even have some background laughter here. That's that's how much people love my right eye right now. I tried to make up it, so we'll see. But this is an audio. Maybe audio is preferred. If you don't want to see us, or just block me out. But
Well,
let's.
I've always had a face for radio, so
Yeah, but you got TV hair.
at least I have it at my age.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. That's good. I want to be like you.
yeah. No,
I mean, I already am. We have the same birthday, so I'm already halfway there.
yeah, yeah. But
Literally halfway there. But that's a story for another day. All right. So the month of May, I want to start off with temperatures because we had a very hot stretch for 2 days. It was a I mean, there were a few days from the 18th to the 20th where it was hot, but the 19th and the 20th was exceptionally hot. I have some stats, and this is going to be in our top 10 weather events of 2026. We had the earliest heat advisory on record for New Jersey. Now, there's a little subjectivity in that from the National Weather Service, but that's one thing. We actually had at Atlantic City International Airport a tie for the earliest 95-degree day on record. We did that. We even hit 100 in a few spots. You're going to give us some more data on that? It kind of, maybe, sort of. I know you texted me. It wasn't super humid, so it was heat without the humidity. And then something we did talk about, you and I were texting, huge sea breeze differences, like even at the same location. Seagirt in Monmouth County, we got down to 64 degrees at one point. I think you were in Seagirt that one day. It got really hot, then boom, cooled down right away. So it was, would it be fair to say this was the earliest hottest stretch for New Jersey on record? Like, where do we put that in context? Because there were a lot of mid to upper 90s inland. It was before Memorial Day, and those overnight lows were really warm as well. It wasn't just on the high temperature side.
yeah, I never did get a chance to look at the consecutive nature. We had a number of places hit 90 for 3 consecutive days, which a lot of people like to call a heat wave. And I didn't find a good app, and I didn't go into AI to search for triplicate 90-degree days in May. But I can say the 19th rivaled any day, any May day on record for the hottest in New Jersey. There was a day, I think it was May 30th, 31st, 1895, which arguably maybe was a degree or so warmer.
Right.
1895.
Yeah.
But nothing more than that. There was a report in Patterson of 100 or 101 degree that day in 1895. And I think one other out in Warren County had one reported for that day. So
It's pretty
maybe that,
surprising for out there, by the way.
yeah, I know. Belvedere, it was Belvedere.
Belvedere.
That may have been a tad warmer, but this one, arguably one of the top 1, 2, or 3 hottest days in May. And you said it was the 19th. It wasn't the 30th or
No.
31st
No.
either. Now, in terms of the 100-degree temperatures that day,
Yes.
there was 101 recorded at Coyle Field down in Woodland Township. We have a new weather station there with a new sensor and whatever right there, co-located with that station.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to 99.
Okay.
Now, were we splitting hairs with 2 degrees? 2 degrees. We had 5 of our Mesonet stations hit 99, and Newark hit 99. But I don't know about that 101.
Okay. Okay. I got a text from Dr. John Crasting who said Harrison hit 100 degrees.
I haven't checked the co-op program there, but I know that the co-op observer, and I didn't see that. They sometimes come in a little later, but it's possible. So flirting with 100 degrees is highly unusual any time in the month of May, and especially 10 days or plus before the end of the month.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. And, I think this was roughly 15 to 20 degrees above average for that time of the year. The saving grace with this, there wasn't a lot of humidity with this. It wasn't, if this was late July, it would probably be that plus the humidity. So that was some good news there. But the overnight lows too, I mean, they were in the 60s, well in the 60s. I'm guessing, I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe some places stayed at 70.
There was one that stayed at 80. There were
80.
Overnight, and it wasn't right at the coast where it's still cooler. But the one night, the 19th into the 20th, it did. But no, those temperatures, upper 90s, are almost 10 degrees above normal for mid-July.
Yeah.
So we're talking, normally it should have been in the low 70s. So we're talking 25 degrees above normal for high temperatures.
Right, on the high temperature side.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, look, and we say this almost every month. It's not like, these warm temperatures haven't happened before, right? You said in 1895 that we had something similar, but the likelihood of these kind of temperatures happening have and will continue to increase, right?
Yeah.
And as we saw with this was earlier in the month. It wasn't May 30th. It was May 19th and 20th, which, you're talking, if you look at the astronomical seasons, mid-spring-ish, right? On the getting towards the later. So, that's more of what we see. And then also, let's just touch on some of these sea breezes here, because we did have, I mean, this is super cool, right? I mean, we can geek out about this, but we did have winds that were offshore, but when you're still in the mid to upper 90s, that's going to be a big sea breeze that wants to develop. And just taking a step back, how these sea breezes work, it's kind of Mother Nature's way of balancing out the atmosphere. So when it gets too hot, relatively speaking, on land, Mother Nature's saying, whoa, hold on a second. We need to cool this down. Let's get the ocean, in the cooler ocean, to come in there. So you were in Seagirt that, I forget if it was the 1920s, right? But what was it like there?
It was blazing hot. I was down there for an emergency management meeting at the National Guard headquarters there, and went out onto the beach, and it was stifling, visited our weather station, which sits there, went to lunch, sat inside because it was so hot. And then I get home and I see at 2:00, our station went from the low 90s to about 70 in 10 to 15 minutes. I left that restaurant on the main street there in Seagirt a little after 2, and the sea breeze hadn't made it quite to the car yet.
Right.
Well, I came so close to experience it, but at noon when I was out on the beach, it was, it was stifling hot. And looking down, that beach is pretty empty. Looking down to Manasquan, there were a lot of umbrellas up on the beach down there. So it was real beach day. That's what we love about this, right, Joe? I mean,
I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, these extremes, these variations, but they are a little disconcerting when they occur sometimes.
Yeah, I was in Wildwood, North Wildwood specifically on the 20th, and it was in the mid 70s it was beautiful, beautiful breeze. But as we've talked about, those barrier islands, especially further south, more susceptible to the sea breeze than a beach in Monmouth County, and they can hang on the longest to that sea breeze, or typically would be correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say the Monmouth County beaches, if you're looking at the beach towns, climatologically warmer than the other parts of the Jersey Shore. We have those barrier islands. So that's not, it's not surprising that Wildwood was cooler all day long. I'll even give a story too. We did a Cup of Joe Weather and Drone Picture Day on forget what day it was, May 27th, or no, May 27th. And we were we were in Seaside Park and we were getting the land breeze and we were getting all these gnats, like the bugs on the beach biting us. But like 10 minutes after we got there, like immediately, boom, flip to the sea breeze, easterly wind, still a few gnats, but not as many as before. And it felt cool. That was the sea breeze at work. So always super interesting to talk sea breezes. But it was definitely a good beach day, or pair of beach days, making up for Memorial Day weekend. We'll get to that, but let's just zoom out. May as a whole, where did we wind up temperature wise?
Yeah, temperature wise, we averaged above normal, but barely above normal, kind of just in the upper third for warmth. Just like for precipitation, we were just in the lower third for precip. So nothing all that dramatic when it came to the balancing out. Unlike April, where we had that warm spell, but we had enough cold, and then we had a little bit of cold air and that freeze, which still is in the news. I just gave an interview earlier this afternoon on the ramifications of that freeze on April 21st. But overall, despite that freeze, it was one of the top 10 warmest Aprils on record.
Right.
There was enough back and forth in May that it's a little closer to normal.
Yeah. So, we ended up, I'm just looking here, just some specifics. Atlantic City Marina, 0.2 of a degree above average. ACY Airport, inland, 0.9 degrees above average. That's what we had at those locations. But it was kind of the first, 10 days of the month, cooler than average. Then we had that burst, the 17th to the 20th, where we had well above average temperatures. And then we were mixed, but on the warmer side as we rounded out the month of May here. So real quick, we got about 45 seconds before we get to break, but we can talk about climatological spring, March, April, and May. Do we have numbers on that yet? Or do you have a feel of where we're going to be?
We're still putting together some numbers, but over break, I can see if I've gotten an email from Matt Gerbush, the assistant climatologist who was looking at it. But overall, it's going to be a warm spring.
Yeah, which I think is surprising for people. People think it was a cool spring. I'm like, we were still above average. I still think, this is my theory, I think people still are scarred from the winter, and we're not fully thawed out yet. I don't think we're fully thawed out yet.
And it was dry. It's absolutely coming on the dry side since every month was below normal for precipitation.
Yep. And we're going to get to that on the other side of the break here on our monthly weather. Welcome back to the monthly weather roundup. We are recapping the month of May. We talked about the temperatures. Now we're going to talk about the precipitation or lack thereof. Why don't we start with Memorial Day weekend? Look, we need the rain. We really do. But if there was like 3 days where we didn't need the rain, it was Memorial Day weekend. And, I do our short summer weekend weather report card. This is, and I can't believe it, my 9th year doing this. And this is one of 2 Fs I have ever given for a weekend, ever. And because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that's how we do it. Friday wasn't the wettest day in the world, but it wasn't a beach day. Saturday and Sunday, definitely Fs. And Monday, you had like 2 hours at the end of the day, but it still wasn't all that warm. Not great. And we know Memorial Day weekends aren't always great. But
it was early. It was as early as it could be almost.
That's true. Yeah, it was the earliest it could be. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can remember one a couple of years ago when we went down to Cape May for that weekend. It was probably more like 8 or 9, one of your earlier maybe
report cards.
And it was miserable and cold and damp, but Cape May's great anyway. But
that is true.
The timing was lousy. But if you want to talk precip for May, all we have to do is talk about that weekend because there was hardly any other precipitation. Turn it
Right.
remote.
Yeah. I mean, where did we end up generally at the shore for Memorial Day weekend? And then I don't know if this might put you on the spot, but like what percentage roughly of our monthly rain was from Memorial Day weekend?
Almost all of it was. So, I
Okay.
mean, there was a half an inch or whatever. The wettest Cape May for the month of May, Ocean City had 2.51 inches of precip. Atlantic County, Ventnor City had 3.73. Now, some of that was with a thunderstorm last week, that a thunderstorm complex that hit the Atlantic City area. I think it was last
Yeah.
Wednesday
Yeah,
afternoon.
it was. There was severe thunderstorm warning there.
Yeah, Millstone Town, well, no, Lacey Township in Ocean County was 3.5, and Millstone Township in Monmouth was 3.38. And on the low end, there were stations in the 1.5 to 2.5 inch range. So there was some variation, as we always see up and down the
Right.
coast, but everywhere below normal. And, again, 22 of the last 25 months, we ran the numbers this morning, and this is the second driest June of 2024 to May of 2026. So that 24-month window, just looking June to May's, it's the second driest June to May over a 24-month period on record in New Jersey. Now we're doing the running means to see where it ranks as the driest of any consecutive 24 months, but we haven't finished calculating those numbers yet. But it gives you an idea of the magnitude of the dry conditions over the last 2 years, that it's just this additive or subtractive process. We're missed this much precip and that much precip and that much precip. It's worrisome. It's absolutely worrisome.
Yeah, you said on the last monthly weather roundup that, potentially, right, we could get it from a drought warning that we're in now to a drought emergency that would be issued by the governor, I believe, but, through the DEP, and you have some input in that. Is there any additional thoughts to that? Like, or are we just like, where are we kind of on that, you think?
Kind of a status quo level. I think that rain later in May helped to quench the situation, if you
Right.
will, a little bit. But, it's a week by week. We have no room for error right now. We get a hot spell of a week or two without rain, and I can see an emergency coming down, but no, I'm not hiding anything. There's been no immediate discussion outside of the walls of DEP, and they talk amongst themselves and occasionally rope me in. But I know we're right at that cusp, and we've just managed to keep avoiding it by getting that one rain event during the month that was enough to keep us wet enough not to slide down much further. But we can't take a lot of this with summer here and the warmer temperatures coming and staying, as opposed to just coming
Yeah.
and going as we've
Right.
seen the last 2 months. They're going to come and stay, folks.
Right.
And with that, evapotranspiration,
Yeah.
evaporation from the ground and the atmosphere. I should add that heat in the middle of May was somewhat exacerbated by the fact it was so dry. And I've talked with several folks about this who know this situation. And I contend if we had been wet going into the 19th and 20th of May, we probably would have had highs in the mid 90s,
Sure.
not the upper 90s. Because when you had no energy going to evaporate moisture and cool things a little, it all went to baking the ground, which in turn radiated that heat up into the atmosphere. So the dry conditions made a hot situation hotter, but less humid.
Right, right, correct. And that was, and I've said this in some of my summer forecast to people. I said, I don't think this doesn't look to be the most humid summer. It doesn't look to be necessarily a humid summer, in part because we're not expected to be super wet. There's no long-term forecast to say, hey, this summer is going to be wetter than average. So as a result, you can kind of conclude that it's not going to be a super humid summer. That's what I took from it. Things can change, right? I see the shrug. If we get super wet in June, but as as we're June, July, August, September, even through mid-October, it's not what we call synoptic rain season. We're not getting those widespread soakers. Kind of at this point, only are going to, there's a few exceptions, but mostly going to come from a remnant tropical system or a tropical system. particularly from mid-August to mid-October. I mean, at that point, we don't get those pop-up thunderstorms really. It's kind of a little bit past that season. They can happen, but kind of past that season. And we're not in that nor'easter or mid-latitude cyclone season either. So you're really relying on those tropical remnant tropical systems to provide the rainfall. So, as we go into June, my kind of a two-part question for you. How much rain do you think we need to at least hold off, right, those severe circumstances? And then how much rain do we need to kind of pull out of it completely?
Those are questions I get asked all the time, and they're exceedingly difficult to answer. Of course, I preface it by saying we don't want it all at once. Okay, said that. You don't, and you can't expect to make it up all at once. If we went to a normal rainfall pattern of about 4.5 inches a month of precip for each of the next 3 months, we will stave off any kind of a drought emergency. That will be enough to keep things wet enough. It's tough to fill reservoirs at this time of the year up north. It's tough to replenish groundwater in the south. So you need timely rains, and you need rain that's abundant enough to keep us in the normal category. So, if we could get 4 to 5 inches a month for June, July, and August, I'd be real happy.
Right.
Real happy. We don't need 8 to 10 each month. We're going to be talking flooding then, but we can't deal with 2-inch months, 2 to 3 inch months, month after month. And that's what we've been facing. It's not as if a drought in New Jersey has no rain. Now, okay, this is the fall of 2024 was close to that.
Yeah.
But it's just when it rains, it doesn't rain a lot. And maybe it rains a little less often. We get these disappointing situations where the rains don't perform. We call underperforming. So it's not like you don't see raindrops, but the rain events underperform. They're forecast and they don't come to total fruition. They arrive and they get out of here too quickly, if you will. So I know it's great in some respects when you have that good weather, but if you've got a fire danger and you can't go camping out in wooded areas, or you're restricted for your use of water, no one wants that.
Yeah. Last question on this, and then we'll move on. When we look at kind of drought or this going forward, right? You said 4 to 5 inches a month. Does that necessarily mean, is that statewide, or will a bunch of pop-up thunderstorms do the trick too?
That's the problem.
I'm giving tough questions.
Yeah, no, that's the problem with summer. And you already alluded to it, that you get that great variations. You can have 10 inches of rain in one part of the county and 3 inches in another part of the county for the month. So you need kind of widespread frontal systems to come through that really generate some widespread storms. They don't have to be severe storms or anything of that nature. And along the coast, that's more challenging because the atmosphere stabilizes near the coast for the aforementioned sea breezes,
right,
and such. So the coast is the driest area of the state during the summer. You have more thunderstorm activity and more potent storms inland. So yeah, you just don't, like last July, we had a little above normal rainfall, but there were a couple really hot spots up around Plainfield, and there was one out near Mercer County, and one, as I recall, in Ocean County. And some part of me thought that was too unevenly distributed. But it's summer, so that's what we expect. So we really need active thunderstorm systems coming through the state on a weekly basis so that areas that miss 1 week get it the next week.
Sure. Okay. Well, we're going to hope for nice, evenly spread out rainfall as we go into the month of June. All right. This is going to take us to our last segment here. It's a segment that pains me, but I'm happy for you. I'm upset for me. But this is your penultimate monthly weather roundup. And the reason for that is
retirement. After 38 years at Rutgers, 50 years studying climate in college and grad school and past, and 35 years as your state climatologist, it's time to hand the reins over to others to keep the program going. Very proud of what we accomplished these many decades. But it's time to step back a little bit, not sit at this very desk at 9:30 every evening and on Saturdays and Sundays, and get a little more exercise, do a little more traveling. I've got bookshelves out in the hall here, out in the loft that need a lot of reading. Yeah, visiting the grandkids some, smell some roses. You've got it. Wonderful, wonderful career. I would have never wanted anything different. I would have wanted to be state climatologist if I knew it existed when I was growing up in Bergen County.
Yeah.
But, there just comes a time. While I'm healthy, my wife and I like to travel. We will do more traveling, but particularly when it's not hot and crowded.
Right.
And enjoy my 70s before maybe I slow down a little bit come my 80s.
No.
Well,
You got
but it's been wonderful. And it's folks like you. You hit two spots. As a student and
Yeah.
as the
Yeah.
media. I've had wonderful students from undergrad to
Yeah.
graduate
Mhm.
level. And I've had wonderful interactions with the media over the years as part of my outreach and teaching, if you will. And you check two boxes, Joe.
Yeah. And well, three, we have the same birthday, but yeah, and listen, round of applause for an excellent career in New Jersey and climate and with the global snow lab. I mean, we're gonna get into a lot of this in next month's episode, but it's I mean, I'm really happy for you. I mean, I know, we've talked, I've known about this for a little bit. Tough decision, I'm sure, with any kind of, retirement. You don't want to leave the good parts of the work that you have. And I know, I'm not just saying this, but you're probably one of the best interviewees when it comes to talking about weather and climate in the United States. Just being so open and willing to talk. Listen, we know, you and I know people in the weather field. They're not, just talking and being extroverted is just not their thing. And that's totally fine, right? But when people want information, they know to go to Dr. Dave Robinson, and that's how we're doing this, right? I mean, I said this on our tidal flooding talk show that we did, but I did intern with you in 2013 at Rutgers, which is now 13 years ago. We did dew point research. I love dew points. You kind of took that and let me do that, and that was great. But we didn't talk much for a few years, mostly on my doing, not of yours. You're busy. You got a lot of other people to deal with. And then I kind of saw you at a conference in Atlantic City in 2018 and reconnected. And I said, hey, I don't remember what I said, but I must have said, hey, we should do a show together. And you said, I guess you said yes. And the rest has been history. And, we've talked, we're, friends. You came to my wedding. We've talked so many times. And,
And you
I'm
came
going to
to
miss
this.
you professionally. I won't miss you personally because I'll still talk to you. But
Yeah.
professionally, yes, this chapter closes. But, I know and that there's so many people who are thankful to have you being New Jersey state climatologist, and you've made New Jersey a better place as a result of it.
All right, that's enough. That's enough.
All right,
No,
I'm blazing you too much at that point.
it's wonderful. And I came to your wedding, but you came to a symposium held in my honor
I did.
back in April that we kind of laid low. I didn't want to talk a lot about the retirement to media.
No, which was, and it was a great symposium. I mean,
Yeah, it was a wonderful day of 80 people from a dozen states coming in, former grad students and postdocs and interns and colleagues from across the country, literally.
Totally.
So, and that's been the wonderful part. That's the bittersweet part of it. Let's face it. There are parts, if I could just encapsulate those and not deal with the proposals and the budgets and the deadlines and all the managerial side of things, yeah, it might keep going a while longer. But I will never regret working into my early 70s. Like some people say, you should have retired earlier. No, I was not ready. But I just felt it was time to really, for my wife and I and family, to just, step back a little bit and enjoy the fruits of our labors, I guess you could say. But it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. There's no question about it.
Wow. We still have one more episode with you.
There we go.
On your literal last day, the last hours of you being
That's
a
true.
climatologist. Am I the last meeting you have? I think we're doing it like 3 o'clock
We're
on
doing
that.
it on the 30th, so yes,
Wow.
because and
11 a.m. 11 a.m. So you might have a couple more meetings afterwards.
maybe, but mind you, as a state employee, when they want to make Rutgers professors state employees, I'm not allowed to do anything for 6 months to do with Rutgers. I don't get a pension, so I don't lose that if I did it. I don't know what I'd lose. Frankly, and HR can't tell me. And I also have to let my successor, who's been named, Dr.
Yes.
former Rutgers meteorology undergrad and PhD, who the last 15 plus years has been working at NOAA's Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Lab in Princeton, doing all sorts of interesting research. He's coming back to the banks, and he's going to be your next state climatologist, and he'll be excellent and do a fine job. He may be doing podcasts with you. I hope he does, because he's a good communicator. He has
Yeah.
a little bit of television
He does.
experience
Yep.
with
Yep.
the media right after finishing up. And we're going to be in good hands. I'm proud to say that my partial line as state climatologist is now, the dean was convinced that we need a full-time extension specialist state climatologist. So he's going to be full-time doing what I did, along with my teaching, my department chairing, and my global research. He gets to devote all his time to state climate efforts. So, and he's retaining, I do believe, a lot of the staff that have worked with me since they were undergrads, and now they're well into their 40s. They're going to have a new boss for the first time in their careers.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. Time marches on, and there's going to be new resources for the department, because with change often comes some additional
New
resources.
things.
So
Sure.
all good. I know we got to finish up. We'll talk more about that in
Yeah.
late June.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more on June 30th. We'll have much more to say about it. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up with the May monthly weather roundup. We will have a new episode for you on June 30th after we record at 11 a.m. So it'll be fresh out of the oven on June 30th. Until then, everybody, thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube if you're watching, and we'll talk to you soon.